Howdy, folks. Welcome to the podcast Iron. My name is Laura Mullen Vermilia, and on this podcast, I interview members of the cast iron art community in order to inspire, educate, and spread ideas about iron casting and cast iron art. Kristen Tordella-Williams is our guest on today's episode, and I'll say right now that the conversation is going to be a wild ride. Kristen, thanks for taking the time to chat with me about your journey into iron casting and for briefing us on the pieces that you're currently working on at the moment. Personally, I find it very inspiring to witness how active your practice of art making is. This show is sponsored in part by supporters on Patreon who are helping me afford the online hosting of these audio files. So thank you to all of you folks over on Patreon who are helping us out. Now, for all of you listening or watching, we had a little trouble with the internet quality during this interview, so I want to apologize ahead of time for any inconsistent audio or visuals that you may notice. But otherwise, thanks so much for tuning in, and please enjoy. So, Kristen Tordella-Williams. Well, who the hell are you anyways?
Laura Mullen. I am an artist, I'm an educator, and I'm an organizer. So I do this. It's really hard for me to see like strict boundaries between these things because I like to collaborate with lots of different people. But my official title is the Assistant Professor of Sculpture at Auburn University, which is in Alabama, about an hour and a half southwest of Atlanta. I also have lived in the South for the past 8 years. I used to teach at a small liberal arts college in Jackson, Mississippi called Millsaps. And then I recently stepped up as the president of the Mid-South Sculpture Alliance. So those are some of the things that I have titles with.
Thank you. And let's just jump into the questions. So I like to kind of start out with your formidable years. And when you were a child, did you have any early exposure to art that was memorable or meaningful?
So my family's very DIY. Like we didn't have cable. I read a lot as a kid. We were all expected to pitch in at the house. My dad was very handy. When I was in middle school, he started a home renovation company. And then my grandfather also was very skilled in woodworking. So he had a wood shop in the basement. But most of my memories of that wood shop were of just like playing hide and seek with my cousins down there. And then the one thing that I do is like a long lasting memory, he would like lay out plastic and he would give us all these scraps and let us just like glue them together. And I realized kind of like late in life, I was like, oh, that's the first time I really kind of had this free play in sculpture, not just drawing and painting, which is something I also really like to do at school and at home. So yeah, I think creativity was definitely very much encouraged in my family, but I don't know if like art making, or it wasn't called art making, it wasn't like, I don't know, like I didn't know that being an artist was a thing you could do until I got to high school. We didn't go to very many art museums, but we were very like, very educated. I'm lucky to come from a very educated family. So it was just more of like interest in the world.
And also I like to, well, it's funny because in last week's interview with Margie, I asked her about like manual labor abilities as a child, which now I kind of like, I know what I was trying to say was like, but it sounds like coming from a DIY family.
Yeah, very crafty. So my mom would always involve the kids in sewing and cooking and like cleaning, all of that stuff from like very young age, doing the dishes. And then we'd also do home improvement, like painting and like renovation as well as a family. So yeah, pretty common. And I did work for my father when I was in undergrad. I would work for him as like basically a carpenter's apprentice. And so I learned how to do all sorts of different things, like how to take down a wall with a sledgehammer, how to put a toilet in, how to tile, how to do plumbing and electricity. So I got a lot of sheetrocking. I got a lot of really important like hand skills working for him.
Mm-hmm.
And also life learning things about being a woman in industry where only 3% of workers at that time were women was definitely very eye-opening. Just how other people treated me was very interesting. I'll put it that. We've all been to Home Depot.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. Okay. So then as you kind of like moved into, well, you said you the first time you realized you could actually be an artist was maybe in high school. So how did you kind of start your artistic career?
Yeah, I grew up in Massachusetts, and my hometown had a really, really strong arts program, which isn't super common, I don't think. I had multiple art teachers, had art all through like my childhood into high school. And in high school, I had really interesting classes that I took. I just liked, orchestra. I liked graphic arts. I liked, art class. And when it came, they're like, what are you going to do? I don't know. I had this great photo teacher, Miss Bellotti, who I love photo. I think it's like process, right? It was one of the classes it's all about the process. It was film photography. So we go out, you could go out with the film camera and like explore school, and everybody had the same like photos of the stupid things. But developing, I love being in the darkroom and developing, and I love learning that process. Like from start to finish, like developing the film to developing the negatives, and things like that. And she went to UMass Dartmouth. I want to say, I can't remember if she went there for undergrad or grad school, but she said it was a good place for me to go and encourage me, and to be, to pursue a degree in arts. So I didn't know I was going to be a sculptor at that point, but I was like, this is what I like doing. Why should I go to school for something that I'm not interested in or engaged in? This is what I like really look forward to every day in school, like that or English. But I'm like,
so you're in high school and you make a slide portfolio of slides.
CD. It was a CD.
It was a CD. Old. Okay. Okay.
It was a CD.
Okay. Well, because I had slides.
I did. So UMass at that time, they did portfolio reviews. And so I went in person with art, and like I met with a very intimidating professor that I never took a class from, but she just was unwilling to give me a portfolio. Like, I don't know how to explain it. Like basically to say that, yes, your portfolio is good enough that you can get a BFA here. She didn't want to do that. She's like, you need to go through foundations and then whatever. And so like I went back to high school and I was very intimidated, but I was like, screw you, intimidated lady.
Yeah.
And I've worked on my life drawing skills, which I really didn't have very much observational drawing. My portfolio, and then they accepted me. I can't remember how it all shook out. Maybe they accepted me into foundations, and then I went into sculpture after that, because foundations is very traditional there. It's like 2D, 3D, life drawing, observational drawing. Yeah.
So Eric Lintella?
Yeah. How do you know Eric?
So I think we're publicly going to have on record a like realization that we both have BFAs from the same school.
That's so funny, Laura. When'd you graduate?
When did I graduate? In 2009.
Well, like I graduated in 2010. So we were at school together. How do we not know each other?
I honestly don't know, because I was taking sculpture classes.
That's crazy to me.
Especially
with foundations. That's mind-boggling.
Well, in foundations, like.
Or you were a year ahead of me.
Like I would have been out of foundations right as you were going in. Because I started in fall of 2015. I started, fall of 2005.
Yeah, I was a freshman, you were a sophomore. This is blowing my mind right now.
So like,
but did you concentrate? Did you do jewelry medals?
Yes.
Okay, that's why we didn't know each other.
Yeah, but Star Store wasn't photo in the Star Store though.
I didn't focus in photo. I was a sculpture major, and so I was on the 3rd floor of the Star Store all the time.
What floor was jewelry medals? Because it was like textiles.
Was it on 2nd?
Yeah. Now we're having inside baseball.
I know.
So for everybody,
The Star Store was amazing. It was a gift. It was a gift.
Okay. So for everybody who's listening, who has no idea why were we at a store? Okay. So where Kristen and I went to undergrad, and Kristen,
together, apparently.
You can feel this is ridiculous because I also feel like I didn't actually meet you until maybe 2015 at Sculpture Trails.
Did we meet that year at Sculpture Trails?
In 2015.
You were there? Were you where?
I was just there for like the fire night.
Okay, yeah.
And they were like, oh yeah, there's another masshole here. And I was like, really? Where's she at? And then I like met you and I was like, she's a masshole.
Yeah, we're massholes. We're 100% massholes. Like, for sure. My first formative memory of you, I think, was at Sloss in 2017.
Yeah, that would make sense for the exhibition.
Because you did the exhibitions, but then also we did fire together. And so then I was like, okay, now I really get to know you a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because trails, like that was great. That was crazy. I was totally overwhelmed.
I feel like I just came in for the weekend because the Metal Museum had brought their furnace for the like last week of trails.
That was not 2015. That was 2016.
Okay. My bad. This is going to be a great interview. Oh my gosh.
But anyway, the Star Store.
Yeah. Thank you for keeping me on track. Jeez. Okay. So UMass Dartmouth, which is University of Massachusetts in Dartmouth, not Dartmouth
College.
Do you get that?
I always got that. And everyone would be like, ooh, you're going to Dartmouth? And I'm like, fuck no, I'm not going to Dartmouth.
Yeah. Anyway, so
it's near New Bedford in the south coast of Massachusetts.
Yes. So the UMass Dartmouth had a satellite campus building that was focused in woodworking, was in the basement, and then metalworking, textiles, photography. Am I forgetting something?
There was a paper making studio there basically in a closet.
Yeah.
On that floor.
And ceramics.
Mm-hmm. No, ceramics was on the fourth floor, or was it on the second? It doesn't really matter. And then they had sculpture and printmaking and painting, and the graduate students were all in that building.
Yeah, because then also on main campus there was, and this is for people listening, not Kristen, but there was a art and design, the visual art building. So they did have like a sculpture studio on campus and photography and.
Yeah, they had a whole bunch of studios on campus. This is a newer building. They built almost maybe they must have finished only a few years before we started. They used to have another downtown campus, apparently in a warehouse. Did you ever take printmaking?
So I had it when I was a freshman in foundations. I took printmaking from Sarah. I can't remember. She was a graduate student though, and she was awesome. Very inspirational to me and like encouraging to me, even though I wasn't focusing in 2D. And I always kind of wondered what happened to her. Yeah.
And, it's like really important for us to think about the people who inspired us in ways that we didn't understand until later.
Yeah. So that's pretty much, that explains the Star Store. So we basically had the same stomping grounds with overlap.
We're eating the same burritos in the same No Problemo cafe. We were.
Yes. What was that?
God.
It was like
cobblestones away from one another.
I can't even believe, so you said something about UMass Dartmouth, and I just I was like, I'm getting red. I was like, if this turns out that we went to UMass Dartmouth together, this is going to be insane.
Which we did.
But I was also, when you said that the photo press professor was like, I can't guarantee that you can blah, blah, blah. I was like, maybe this spurred her to go somewhere else.
She's a graphic design professor or something. I don't know, because I had a lot of, I don't know, doesn't really matter, but it's
water
just
under the bridge. World. At this point, it's just water.
Too bad we weren't friends then.
I know. I mean, you might because I'll be completely honest, and this is like personal, not really that important, but I don't have any friends from undergrad still.
I have acquaintances.
So
I have like internet friends, but the people who I stayed the closest with were people that I worked with at the tutoring center.
Oh,
because I was a writing and reading tutor. So I stayed probably closest to those people, not necessarily the people who were my studio mates.
I'm about to tell you something really crazy. So for my job,
did you also work there?
No, but
would have known each other.
Because so you worked at the tutoring center. My
Mhm.
job. Oh my gosh. How I like earned extra cash was I
Yeah.
drove the dart van.
You did?
Yeah.
Oh!
Isn't that insane?
I left at that time I had a skunk suit where it was like a furry like outfit. My mom made my brother a bear suit, and like I was like, I want a skunk suit.
Yeah.
And I was fooling around in the skunk suit, and I think we're being like pranksters or something. I got on the dart van and I left the head of the suit on the van.
Oh no.
It was the worst. It was very tragic.
It wasn't me. I would have remembered that because I have a lot of memories of a lot of
strange things.
Crazy.
Yes.
Oh, so I guess we should say what the dart van is. So the dart van was UMass Dartmouth's little shuttle van.
It's a big campus. And when I try to explain the architecture of that campus to people, I don't think people really understand what it was like, brutalism. Like,
yeah.
But it wasn't, one thing I appreciate about the campus is that all the windows it was always very interesting to look at, but very stark. And then also stupid because there's a lot of leaks from the flat roof in the winter.
Did you ever go up on the roof in that one area?
No, you went on the roofs?
Yeah.
That girl.
There was a window that was broken and I knew somebody who knew, like, it gets out, the word gets out there, like this one window. I should stop talking about this. I'm going to get like, I could always.
However many years later, 13 years later, we're taking yours.
They're going to come for me. They're going to be like, well, then they fixed the window so we couldn't go on the roof. So problem solved. You can't get on the roof.
So maybe that happened before I learned about it.
Probably. That's why. Because it was, I think, my freshman and sophomore years when I was like living on campus and looking for being bored on campus.
Did you live in New Bedford at all?
No.
I lived in New Bedford my senior year, and that apartment was the craziest mix of roommates I could ever describe to you. Bodybuilder. He was my favorite roommate because he was quiet and clean, and he had a cobra.
What?
Okay. Yeah, he had a snake.
You're right. It was wild. Okay.
Okay, that's only number one. Number two was a dominatrix, a fetish model.
Wow. Okay.
And she had.
Were these also students as well?
Purportedly. They were all students. Okay. Yes. She's dominatrix model, fetish model, and then she had a iguana, and they had taken in a little chihuahua before I had gotten there, and then she also had a cat. And then the third roommate was an art student, but she also had adopted a Cocker Spaniel. And then the boyfriend of the dominatrix moved in as well. So it was crazy.
So a zoo, basically.
It was a zoo. I was the one without pets who liked things like cleaner than everyone else. I think it led me to be very passive aggressive.
Was it in one of those like quad? Or I guess it wouldn't because I have a very.
It wasn't on campus. It was off campus that time.
No, in New Bedford, I remember having a lot of friends that did live in New Bedford. They would live in these apartments that it was basically like you had the whole floor.
Yes. Yeah.
But there'd be 3 or 4 levels. And so but I think it was like 2 bedroom.
Yes. Yeah. It was like that. There were 4 or 5 bedrooms. It was exactly like that. And the kitchen was this tiny little closet. It was definitely kind of like tenement housing that had been renovated ish.
Yeah.
Tiny little kitchen.
Did you have a little balcony?
No.
I remember those balconies really fondly. I don't know. I never lived there, but I spend a lot of time hanging out with friends over there. And so this is going to be wild. Okay. So, so UMass Dartmouth did not have iron.
No, we didn't do iron. I don't know if you did this in sculpture, but Richard, remember Richard?
Do I? I don't.
He taught intro to sculpture. I don't know. Eric, I think they're all still there, all the sculpture professors, Eric, Richard, and Stacy.
Okay. So I only ever had Eric, and I had him for 2 years. And like his stories and his mustache and his like whistling and his country like music and
his like attitude, his kind of aphorisms. Yes, he's a very interesting guy.
I also kind of want to throw him under the bus a little bit, but go on record officially. So he's the one that taught me how to use an angle grinder without a guard on it.
I got my first and worst angle grinder injury, the one that I show other people when they get their angle grinder injuries. I'm like, look, you too can survive this.
Yeah.
But it was because a glove got caught in the angle grinder, and that was in Richard's class. You know, I can't remember whether he told me whether or not to use a guard. I tell my students that they should use a guard.
I think that the tools, oh man, I shouldn't even be talking about this stuff, but I feel like the angle grinders at the school, let's remember, this was like in the mid 2000s. The angle grinders that I remember did not have guards on them.
I don't remember guards
that were provided by like the school's tools for us to use. And so when I got my first angle grinder, why would I use a guard when I had never used one in school? Now I've gotten so many bullying comments on YouTube videos that I have folded.
I hate that. I find that really annoying. I mean, yes, safety is really important, and yes, we should like have that at the forefront. But I also feel sometimes people just want to like show off that they caught the unsafe moment. But I'm like, we're human. We're never going to be 100% safe all the time.
Yeah.
And also in terms of like a fucking guard on a grinder, like give me a goddamn break. Like
if that's the only thing that you can just say.
I got my stupid injury, my middle finger injury, probably with a guard on it, wearing gloves, and I shouldn't have been wearing the gloves I was wearing, shitty ass gloves, and got caught in there, and it came close to my knuckle. It was pretty deep.
Yeah. I've been lucky, but
I've been lucky as a teacher that students haven't injured themselves worse.
Okay, so let's see. Enough about angle grinding, but so this is what I remember. This is what I remember about. So I took sculpture, and I always wanted to take the casting class.
Well, there wasn't a casting class.
So when I was a sophomore, it did run in the spring, and I couldn't take it because it didn't fit into like my class load or whatever, but I was always like,
see, I wouldn't have been able to take it either, but we did cast bronze in my intro to sculpture class my sophomore year. It was Ludo investment. Nothing that I remember. I had to like go when I started casting, I had to go back in my memory and be like, we did do it, but like I had no idea what was happening.
Yeah.
I had no idea what we were doing.
Yeah.
I was confused the whole time because we were given a plaster mold of an apple that Richard had. Okay. And we had to make a hollow wax.
Okay.
Useful. Mm-hmm. All right. And then do something to the apple to like change it. Mm-hmm. And so like I wanted to put like a pine cone thing, and this is probably my first experience with metal casting, a pine cone thing like in the middle of it, but it wouldn't work because whatever he's saying, blah, blah, blah. So I put a pine needle over the surface of it, and it was a pineapple. I made a pineapple.
Ready? Wicked clever.
It's pretty. I gave it to my brother. He better still have it as a test. If he does it, it's like I'm like, I want it back so I can melt it because it's like a heavy amount of bronze. Yeah. And we did melt out. We had to bring in a 10, like the big coffee cans. Mm-hmm. Richard made us all get one of our own. He didn't provide them. He made us all like source one. I'm like, where am I going to find this? And then
it's like Folgers coffee, right? Like just drink all that in one day.
Yeah, Folgers coffee can. Mm-hmm, just find one.
Yeah.
And then and with the gating and the wax working, I feel like he helped us all do that a lot. Like I feel like he basically did it, and I just kind of was like, okay. Or maybe I did it a little bit. I don't really have a strong memory of wax working. Like I liked it, but I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. And then, which is common. And then we invested it in Ludo, and then they burnt it out, and then we had a little pour. Mm-hmm. And they were wearing like the silver suits. Mm-hmm. It's in the basement of the main campus.
Yeah.
There was a factory there.
Yeah.
And a big melt-out kiln, I remember.
I feel like I remember seeing it.
It's big.
Was there a tech guy there?
Yeah, Jonathan.
Okay. So yeah, I remember yeah, him and Eric. I remember being like around all of those people. It's just so like, I feel like I'm throwing memories are coming out that I don't even remember having. But yeah, I just remember always wanting to take the larger metalsmithing, or because I was in metalsmithing, I just remember wanting to take the larger scale casting class. And then by the time I was able to have electives to do so,
they didn't offer it.
It didn't offer it because they didn't have enough people, I feel like, for it to run. And then I graduated. And so
yeah. And iron wasn't a thing. I didn't learn anything about iron there. I did a lot of metal fabrication and woodworking. The coolest thing I think about the sculpture program there is that they do a public show. So even my sophomore year, we did in my in the figure modeling class, we made a piece that I got terrible poison ivy from. Long story. Not that long of a story, but I'll end it there. And then my junior and senior year, I made a solo piece that was in a public show for like 3 weeks. And it was always, when they had it near the main building, it always, all the sculptures got vandalized. I don't know if you remember that, because people were drunk and stupid and they would vandalize the sculptures. Like, it just made me so mad. And then they moved it to the other side of campus, kind of near, like, not near the art building. And they didn't get vandalized because people weren't walking by, they're drunk.
Yeah. Or also better supervision. Like, it might have been more visible.
It wasn't supervised really over there. I think there's just less foot traffic, which is good and bad.
Yeah.
Like, things didn't get vandalized, but less people probably saw them.
Less opportunity. That's when I remember learning, because I made up, this is going to sound so ridiculous, but everybody in the sculpture class, I can't remember what level sculpture, but for that, like, outdoor, because they had like every spring the outdoor, is it what you're talking about? It's like the outdoor sculpture. Yeah. And so Eric wanted everybody to make a sculpture in like 2 weeks, just something. And it would be, he was like, it could be small, but I want everybody's to be bird related. So the class, because it was like a class, not like a make a big individual sculpture, because that was kind of for more developed artists, or people focusing in sculpture. For me, I was just like in a lower level class students. And so they were like, make a sculpture that's based on birds of a feather, and all of our sculptures were in this one little area.
I feel like I remember that,
the bird, but he may have done the birds but you would have either been a freshman or a sophomore. So I made this stupid taller than me flamingo. And it was made out of plywood and scrap little pieces of like round stock and square stock that I like welded together, the body and the legs. And like, the one stupid flamingo leg is like, and then I spray painted the shit out of it pink. With big googly eyes.
Quality student work. And very good job.
But it was like, he was like, just kind of do it fast and loose, quick and dirty, whatever. And so like the big googly eyes, he loved it, because it was, it was probably the only thing that I did that wasn't super serious as like a 19-year-old. Like, everything is so, but it's like, I just made a flamingo because I felt like it, and I spray painted it pink, and also like spray painted, like oversprayed myself pink in the process because of the wind or whatever.
Classic.
Oh man, what a wild ride. So anyways, so you graduate from UMass Dartmouth with sculpture.
Yeah, I did that.
And what happened after that?
I was like, what am I going to do? What should I do? I think I realized my upper level classes that I wanted to teach. Like, I was like, this is something that I'm interested in doing, and to teach. I don't want to teach into high school. Like, I want to be in a different level, a higher level, higher education level.
Yeah.
And to do that, you need an MFA. And so I kind of just threw some paint at the wall to see what stuck. And I applied to 4 schools and I got rejected, but invited to do a post-bac for $30,000 at one of them.
Oh.
And then, which was like $30,000 for a studio, and not a degree. So I also like the one school I hadn't heard back from was Alfred University. And I had applied there because my best friend from childhood was going to school there. She was a year behind me and she loved it. She absolutely loved it. I had only like really great things to say. And Alfred is like a nationally ranked program for sculpture and ceramics, either both. Okay. And the things she had to say about it were really great. And I was like, okay, well, I called them and I was like, hey, I haven't heard back from you. Like, did I get in? And the secretary at the time, she's like, I'm sorry, you didn't. There's just been a delay in like notifications. I was like,
yeah.
And so I'm actually at the outdoor sculpture show with my parents, like in, I want to say like mid-April or like maybe even the beginning of May.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, we parents, like, I don't really know what I'm going to do next year. Like Stacy said, oh, you could rent my studio for me. Like you can, you know, like I was like, I guess I'll stay in New Bedford. Like I really don't really have any plans. I had no plans.
Yeah.
And then I get a phone call and it was Diane Cox. And she said, a spot opened up. Do you want it? And I was like, heck yeah, I want a spot where I can have a studio and facilities and get my master's degree. And yeah. But then I got there and I totally had imposter syndrome because I was the youngest in the program. And I felt like I didn't really have a strong grasp of art history or art theory. I did have good decent technical skills from working in construction and getting my sculpture degree. I had hand skills and I had creativity and I had like things I want to say. But I fell out of my depth in like the seminars and art history classes for sure. And then also like I felt like I had to prove something because I was like, I literally got a rejection letter from Alfred. And she's like, just ignore the rejection letter. Like you're in. So it was crazy. But I learned a lot. Alfred is a very, very, very small town. So you get very close with all these people and then a lot of art students in a small space.
It's in upstate New York, right?
I would call it Western New York because it's about an hour or two south of Rochester.
Okay.
Very remote, not much to do. So you get very close to the people who are there. And of course, Coral is at Alfred and there's a great foundry there. But the foundry is like a mile out of town. And I did a little bit when my first semester as a TA to Steve Coles, and he did a foundry project where we cast aluminum. I was like, this is the thing I know the least about. So it was good learning for me. But like when it came to like metal fab and woodworking, I was like, I can really be a good TA.
Yeah.
And then I think Paige Henry was like, come down, do the iron pour, like meltdown, and they do meltdown there at Halloween. And like, I didn't really have a concept of it. I kind of showed up and was like, I guess this is a thing that people do. I don't really understand what's happening. Like people were walking, wearing safety gear and like noises were happening. And I think Paige, I'm trying to remember, I don't have a really clear, like linear.
Yeah, that's fine.
Start to casting iron, but Paige was like, you should just make a mold, you should just do it. And I was like, what am I doing? And so I had been doing a lot of performance art actually. So a lot of my graduate work is performance, like building up sculptural objects, performance, thinking about the body and how it's my main tool, like video, a lot of video and printmaking, paper making, and like mixed media stuff. I was like a lot about labor and about my experience working in construction, kind of processing all these things, like my identity, and like figuring out all this stuff. And I think iron was just like, it was very process heavy. And not that I'm not a fan of, I love process. It's a huge part, but I was just like, what's this? And so I had these pantyhose that I'd been filling with flour for a performance. And so I took one of those and I brought it to the foundry. And I was like, I guess we'll cast this.
Yeah.
She's like, well, you could do a 2-part mold. And I was like, that seems hard.
Yeah.
And then she's like, well, you can do a 1-part mold. I mean, Paige is so enthusiastic about iron and like so much you can do it. I was like, okay. And so like I made a 1-part mold, and then to get the flour out, I like stuck a rod into the mold and like tried to get all the flour out so it wouldn't explode. But then the casting, like I poked too hard into the sand, so it has all the the poke marks in it. I don't have that casting anymore. I left it there. I don't know what had no idea. I had no conception of like what went into it. I was just like, here's a mold. I don't really understand. And then I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my first kind of touch of iron.
Yes.
The touch Paige Henry. Yeah, Paige Henry was like the driving force behind that.
That's good though. It's good to acknowledge that.
I was like very confused the whole time.
So then you saw it again and you were like, I reckon. Well, so then what happened? So
that was my first year of grad school, I think.
Okay.
And Coral, who was, I can't remember if she was my official advisor, but she always like really had a strong belief in me, which I really appreciate. She brought up Franconia and the internship they had there. And so I applied for their internship and got in and went to Franconia for 2 months that summer. And like I love big sculpture. I mean, it's just something so inspiring. Like when I was an undergrad, we went on a field trip to Storm King and it was like one of the most mind-blowing field trips in my life. Right. Yeah. And then we also went to Dia Beacon.
I did that same. Did you camp?
Camp.
Yeah. And it was.
I hope they still do it because it was just like blows. Dia Beacon. Yeah.
Dia Beacon
blew my mind.
And Storm King. And I did that same. This is kind of blowing my. I got to tone it down because it's about you. It's about you. It's not about me.
We've walked each other's footsteps though.
So wild. I just remember.
And I love Storm King. It was huge for me. Yeah, it was great.
I haven't thought about that field trip in so long. But yeah, that was like.
But what a great field trip.
Formidable. Like that was, the first time I saw something like that. Yeah. Anyways. Well,
yeah, for me as well. It was like, holy crap. Like this is like a whole world that I had no idea existed.
Yeah.
And then Coral brought up this internship.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, I'm in. And then Franconia at that time was like 27 acres. It was the second site that they had. You lived in the farmhouse and then you basically cook food for each other. And as an intern, I was kind of like, a young back, basically just stick you wherever and you get to do whatever people tell you to do.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of weed whacking.
Yeah.
But the piece I was doing at the park was a durational performance piece where I dug a hole for an hour each day, Monday through Friday. And it had to be after my internship hours. So it ended up being like the very hottest time of the day. And like I made this hole, like it was basically a sculpture. In the last 2 weeks of the internship, it was also at that time they did an iron pour. They had a hot metal residency. So I'm there and like I'm already hungry all the time because I'm doing all manual labor. I was starving. I was just like hungry. And then all of these crazy people showed up. I was like, who are you people? You're nuts. Like the camping, like just like kooky nutso people. And I was like kind of hemmed and hawed about making a mold. And then Aaron Schmidt was there doing a sculpture. But he also, he is Aaron Schmidt, so he has all this experience in iron casting. He's like, you could do it. Like, and then Jonas Lindbergh, who'd gone to grad school with me, but also kind of came up because he's a Minnesota guy. He came up at Franconia, basically. He like kind of came of age there.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, what are you, scared?
Whoa, okay.
Okay, Jonas.
Where's he from? Is he from the East Coast?
He's from Minnesota.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you
from
said
Minnesota.
Okay.
Yeah. But he knew how to push my buttons. We were friends at Alfred and good friends and worked together. And I had cut hair for one of his pieces with Jenny Hillenbrand, actually. So that's where Jenny and I met also as Alfred.
Mm-hmm.
But the going back to this very eventful pour. So I wanted to cast the shovel I had been using to dig this hole. And it was like caked in mud.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, it was cool. I was like, yeah, sweet. I'll do it. Like, great. And I'm one of those people, artists, we have to be you do what you say you're gonna do. And so I needed the shovel though to dig the hole.
Of course. Caveat.
I know. So it was interesting though, like the clay in Minnesota, like it had stuck to the shovel and it wasn't just like a straight handle. It had all this beautiful like information on it, caked clay and dirt on it, and really interesting object. And so Cynthia Handel, bless her heart, and Erin Schmidt and Kate, I'm blanking on her, maybe Kate Clark is her last name. She taught me how to mix sand.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, what was so confusing for me, I think, about iron casting at the beginning is just like, I was like, how do I do it? Like, tell me, how do I do it? And, like if you're making a half lap joint in wood, there's a way that you do it.
Mm-hmm.
If you're putting up drywall, there's a way you put up drywall. How do I do this thing? Like, it's like, if you're MIG welding, this is the way. And there's not the one A, B, C, D, E, like step one, step two, step three. There are like first, second, third, but like you could go to like Timbuktu on this part, and then you could go over here and do this. It's just I was like, everybody had a different opinion, and
still do.
Still do. And it was a big mold too. It was like 6 feet long because it was a shovel. It was like a full shovel.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I don't know. For some reason, I was picturing the wrong shovel. How would I know what your shovel looked like? I don't know.
I don't know either.
But for some reason, I was picturing
like a little shovel.
Yeah. Sorry.
It was a big shovel. Okay.
I'm sorry about that, but I was picturing a little shovel and a little mold of this shovel.
Yeah.
A camping shovel or something. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
No.
Obviously wrong.
It was like a real shovel. Okay. It was a shovel.
So, but also thin and like, I can't even
mm-hmm.
imagine like the gating. There's something about an innocence of a new caster making a mold. And you're like, yeah, good luck. That might work.
Yeah. That's basically the news that was told to me. And I'm like, people were telling me all sorts of things. And I'm like, wait, there's more that I have to do to this. You know what I mean? Anyway, so I mix sand. I do the first half. I learn what parting lines are.
Yep.
Do that. And then the next morning, I think Cynthia might have helped me flip it. And I packed the second half. Mm-hmm. And then I went to work for 5 hours. And then I cracked it and I used the shovel to dig my hole. Because goddamn, I'm gonna.
Yeah.
And then I was like, now what do I do? And I think I gated it directly into it and then vented it through the shovel tips.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
But that's not even the most exciting thing about this pour.
I can't wait. Like, I want to know so much.
Are you even ready?
No.
Okay. Cause I also had to like break iron for the first time. And I was like, you don't do this. This is horrendous. Like, this is horrible.
And you were breaking iron after your shift, after you dug for an hour.
After I dug my hole, yes. After my shift, after I'd woken up really early to flip my mold, all of this insanity. And then I had to break iron that night because the pour was on Saturday and this was Friday night.
And it's probably like over 100 pounds for all of that.
Yeah, it was
gating.
Like Tamsy said I needed 200 pounds because Tamsy was leading the pour at that time.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. And so I gathered a bunch of little bits that I could, even though it was getting dark. And then I like really angrily figured out how to break iron in a very petulant way.
And, there's radiators up there, right?
I have no memory. I just remember being out there in the gear being like, I can't believe this is what people do. Like, why am I doing this? And then like totally logical. And then the next day, beautiful day. Mm-hmm. The pour is going great because I'm an intern. I'm on scratch block cleanup.
Yeah.
With the grinders that we have already discussed. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So hours of grinder work. I'm just out there grinding.
Yay.
Me and it's just exhausting, just grinding. Okay. And they're going through all these, they're going through all these molds. They're bringing them over to the pour floor, right? Because there are a lot of molds and they're all on one side. And then bringing them over to the pour floor because the pour floor had like a limited, I don't really even know how the pour was. I had no idea. I was grinding.
It's okay. We can gloss over this part. It's totally
fine. And then, it's the Midwestern plains, the thunderstorm came in.
Oh.
A massive thunderstorm. Insane. People were cowering and hiding in. It came in very quickly. Fortunately, all the molds got covered, and I think they were still pouring though, like because they had to tap. And I was like, I can't believe, what are they even doing over there? It was driving rain. We were holding on to tents to keep them from blowing away.
Yeah.
Okay. I was like, oh my God. And then big thunderclaps. Like, it was crazy. People were cowering in the snack shack. Like, it was insane. It was full on thunderstorming, massive. Okay. For like maybe 10 minutes. And then kind of, you just go, oh my God. And then I was like, I heard this whoomp. Okay. And my fellow intern was building basically what looks like a 10-foot tall, 20-foot long piece of Swiss cheese with one hole out of wood. Okay. That was her sculpture.
Got it.
Right. It was right next to where all the molds were.
Oh no.
I know. And so I hear this whoomph, and I'm like, the rain had let up, and I would just go, oh my God, I had to go check on my mold.
Yeah.
And I run over there. Her sculpture had fallen over towards the molds, of course.
Of course, yeah. But that was the sound that you heard.
That's the sound I heard. And I get over to my mold, and it had fallen within an inch of my mold, and it splintered my bottom board.
Oh my God. That's like skin of your teeth.
I was like, I totally freaked out. I was like, oh, and all these people came running over, and I was like, do you see that? Do you even see? And they thought that it had smushed my mold, but it hadn't. I was just freaking out because it hadn't. And it was like insane. Such an adrenaline. Okay. That's not even where the story ends though.
Okay.
Because
good.
Because remember how it's 6 feet long? Okay. The mold. Yeah. And it's not on the fourth floor. Okay.
Not yet.
And the forklift, the really big 2-ton forklift they have, was being used to move the molds to the fourth floor. Okay. No problem. But the rain had made that area too soggy for the forklift to go. And I was like, oh my God, of course. And then the all-terrain pallet jack that they were also using to move molds was too narrow for my 6-foot mold.
Yes.
Of course. I was like, oh my God, what are we going to do? And I was freaking out. I was like, it has to get poured. Like, I don't understand. Like, what are we going to do? Yeah. And this is my first introduction to like the iron mindset of like, Goonies never say die, basically. Yeah. We never give up. Yeah. We're always going to find a solution. We just have to kind of like huddle and like bring up different things. And so the forklift was able to pick it up and then put it in the bed of a truck and then pull it under the gantry and then put it on the floor. Nice. And it did get poured, and the shovel came out almost all the way, except for like a very narrow, like thin spot on where it was just the shovel. Yeah. And it was at Franconia the last time I heard. So I don't know. I hope it's still there because I haven't gotten it.
Fantastic. Did it become kind of incorporated in the performance piece of the digging of the hole?
It's like a memento. I called it a memento, but it's not on their website anymore. I don't have any idea what happened.
Yeah. Well, sometimes we go through programs and we go through places and then they carry on without us, and we carry the memories with us.
Oh yeah. It's a definitely a formative memory for sure. You can tell it was eventful.
Were you like, this is the most exciting thing I've experienced? I
was like, I am never doing this again. No, I was like, I can't handle this. This is insane. This is just a lot. Like,
I mean, it's a lot of, I feel like iron casting, you experience the whole range of emotions.
Oh, fully from dejected frustration, sorrow to elation, adrenaline. Like it was cool. I was like, this is an interesting object, but I wasn't so interested in object making at that time. I was interested in like more, like, it's all ephemeral. And I really was just like, that was just a whole roller coaster of emotion. So I didn't do any more casting until 2013, like 2
Okay.
years later, when I was at SAW, and I wanted to make more shovels because I had dug another hole.
Okay. And so for everybody I'm assuming actually everybody that's listening knows SAW is Salem
Salem artwork.
Artworks,
Yeah.
and that's in Salem, New York.
Yes. Good
I'm
job.
assuming everybody knows that, but yeah, say someone who's listening is in an iron caster, whatever.
They do an intercollegiate iron pour that's still running every fall.
Okay.
And I was an emerging artist there. During my emerging artist fellowship, I dug a grave on the hillside there and brought the dirt down to a different barn. And with Jenny, I asked Jenny to do this with me. She buried me in it, and I was buried for about 5 hours in this dirt. And so the shovels were a commemoration of the event, but also like their own little object. And I made 40 little bronze shovels. I made actually more than 40. They were like almost 100.
So these ones are small now. Okay. So these were,
they're very small. They're this big. So it was my first moment making multiples, and they have little twig handles. They're very cute. And Bones, who was the founder director at the time, taught me how to make molds for small things. And I was like, I learned more. I like knew more of what I was doing, and I had more of an understanding. They weren't cast in iron; they were cast in bronze. But I did help peripherally at that iron pour. I didn't participate in the pour, but I was like in the background helping in other areas. I was screen printing, I think. And then I was like, okay, like this isn't as scary, or like cool. I really like these little shovels. They're lovely little objects. And then I moved to the South. I moved to Mississippi, and I was like culture shock. Like, who am I? Like, I have this whole new job, and like I had to like adapt in a way that I was really unprepared for, I think, or just, I don't know. You get put in these positions of authority as a professor. You're a professor. You step into a classroom, and you are like, unbeknownst to me, like I'm just me, right? But like then you have this position of authority, and people are expecting you to behave in a certain way, and I don't behave in ways that I think maybe proper Southern women do. Or I always, like just the same experience going to Home Depot, like as a young woman, or even now, do you even know, like just the doubting and the second guessing from students and from other people, or just like my attitude is different from maybe what's expected, can be jarring to certain people. But majority of people, I think, get along with me pretty well. Like I'm pretty, like I like, so I was just struggling a lot, like coming to grips with my first year of like being a full-time professor. And again, Coral, like she's like this magical networker. She had posted something about sculpture trails, and I was like, that looks interesting. I'm like, what's that about? And so I was like, what is that place? And she's like, oh, it's great, Jerry, blah, blah. I'm not going to butcher an English accent.
We'll have her on, and she can do her impersonation of herself, but we'll have her on. She's in my next round of people to ask so we'll have her on.
She's got so many great stories. So she had this is just how the network goes, right? She had mentioned sculpture trails. And so I went there, and I talked to some of my other, like Julie Ward, and I talked to them about what mold I wanted to make and like all the different things that I wanted to do, and kind of like prepared myself a little bit more, just knowledge wise. And like, if I could go back and like do it again, maybe I would have made them thinner. Okay. Like, cause they're really heavy, and I made 20 castings, and I showed them all over the place, these wreaths, the first 20 wreaths that I made. And they're really fun. They're basically like texture studies of organic and inorganic forms, but then they're also a wreath. And I'd gone to Latvia also. So I was doing photos in Latvia, though I wasn't casting, but I just kind of like started to get more acquainted with the world of iron. And then, being at Sculpture Trails, I started to feel more like I had an understanding of molding.
Well, let me just do a little clarification. So you went to Latvia for the international
in 2014,
but photographing and witnessing.
Yes. Paige Henry hooked me up.
Yeah.
Hey, what's up? Yeah.
But witnessing everything in kind of like a
Yes.
step back, like you didn't have a mold that was on the end, on the brink of being.
Yes. I made no mold. I did go see Steve Coles though in England before that and see his foundry. And I'm actually going back again this summer before the international again. It's just really fun, full circle of timing.
That's great. Yeah. So you went to the international in Latvia and then did sculpture trails. And that's for everybody, it's like the same thing. Like I'm assuming everybody that's listening knows these kind of like outlines, but so sculpture trails is in Salisbury, Indiana. And it's basically the whole month of July, I think. And so artists can sign up for a week at a time to go and have, I mean, I haven't been an artist at sculpture trails yet, but it's like you get undivided attention, right? And there's interns breaking your iron, and
you get a lot of help to make molds, with mixing sand, breaking iron, and interns gain a lot of experience also in doing these things and like running furnace, like yeah. So they gain a lot of knowledge, but again, similar to my experience with Franconia, you just definitely work really, really hard.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And I'm going to have Jerry Massey on the podcast. I talked to him already. We're going to wait until Trails is over this year.
Good idea.
So that
I need to call him and tell him what I'm making, because I'm going this year.
Ooh.
And I'm really excited, and I'll be there at Fire at Night. I'll be there.
Okay. I'm going to be there too. So I'll see you then. I mean, I'm awesome.
Just going to Are you going to be at Fire at Night?
Yeah,
that's cool.
I'm just going to come in I'm going to have to arrive that morning.
Yeah.
And then
rolling in.
Yeah.
That's all good. We're going to have so much fun. I'm really excited. And Fire Night, you always need more people. There's just never enough people.
Yeah. And I won't bring any molds or anything. I'll just be hands and probably like a head cam. That's all. Put me where you need me. Well, I'm excited. That's going to be great. Okay. So
I love sculpture trails. It's like a home place for me. I love it. It helped me like be with people who were like me and thought like me, and like was really affirming and making art in like a concentrated way in a community that I hadn't really made for myself yet in Mississippi. So it was like really, really important for me to be around other artists.
Do you go every year?
No, I went in 2015, 2016, and 2018. I haven't been back, partly pandemic related, and then partly money and like idea related.
Yeah.
So I went down there, and then I went to the MSA conference in Atlanta and started to kind of create more of a network of people in the South, of sculptors in the South, because there's a lot of us down here. I mean, I know I'm not there right now, but in the South, there's a lot of sculptors, a lot of strong sculpture programs, and a strong public sculpture community. And so I started making more like...
Wait, but you are there right now. Like, I know physically right now.
Oh, I mean, physically right now I'm not there, but yes, I do live in the South.
Yes. Okay. Just wanted to clear that up because everybody that's listening doesn't know you're on vacation right now.
I'm not on vacation. I'm at a residency.
Oh, okay. Well, do you want to talk about that?
I can, but we can talk about it later.
All right. Let's keep it on the straight and narrow for right now. Yeah.
So, I started to... trying to think when I started to pour. I also made friends with, I can't remember how I met Kevin Vanek. I can't remember, but I was like, I want to come. I became aware of USM, University of Southern Mississippi, which is in Hattiesburg, about an hour and a half south of Jackson. And I started to go down there to make molds and to pour iron with them. And I went to many pours there. I really love Jen Torres. She's wonderful. And Kevin was like amazing. Always very welcoming to me, very kind of them to let me do that, because I had no facilities in my little college. I had been building them up, and then getting to kind of do that was just a real fun thing. But it was a little bit stressful because I would go down there and make a mold in a day and then go back home, right? And then gate it the day of the pour.
Oh, yeah, that is
a little stressful.
Sometimes, yeah.
And then like the last time I think I did that, I think I did just like, I did both parts and like the same. I was just like, I was like, did it. I was like, doesn't matter. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
It was great. It was fun. I totally Like, I don't want to be stressed out. I don't have to wait for the sand to set.
Yep.
I'm just going to do both at the same time. Yeah, so that was really, really fun. And it gave me the opportunity to like be more experimental in the molds I was making. And I'm very interested in trying to like do unusual patterns or like just seeing what the iron will do. I'm not always interested in a perfect casting like I did. I'm also interested in bringing my two kind of processes together. My other main process right now, or for the past, I guess, however many years, has been paper making. So in undergrad, I learned how to paper make from a studio mate, Paul Barker, for a project. And then I did a lot of paper making at Alfred for book arts and for printmaking, and just like, because paper is expensive. It was always really like utilitarian. And so I've always been interested in how to get paper and iron to kind of come together. So that's been an interesting question for me in my studio practice. Because like sometimes they're very separate. Sometimes I use the same process, or sometimes they'll end up in the same piece together. Sometimes I've been toying with this question for a while, because paper is very delicate. It's also very strong. So iron is very strong. It's also very brittle. So they have these like similar tendencies. Paper is very water. Iron's very fire. And then they kind of dry or cure or like cool, and then they're in these like there's a transformation that's possible with both of them. You can also use them both as casting materials and as printing materials. So I think they're really versatile and like have an interesting conversation together. But I kind of digress a little bit down that material.
No, that was all great. I'm very interested in that side of your artistic story as well.
Yeah. So here at the Tides, what I'm doing is I made a bunch of paper out of my used work pants, because actually going back to the experimental molds, it's really funny. It's like I knew you could make paper out of pants, out of denim. I was like, I always wanted to do that. I got to figure it out. And I had proposed, I think, a piece for a portfolio for SGC that was going to use denim paper. And I made denim paper, but it wasn't great paper. I made it. I didn't have a lot of time, but I made it. And I was like, I did it. Made my edition. I liked the way it came out.
Yeah.
But I was like, I need to revisit this. And so I had all these old work pants that I could no longer, that I outgrew, dare I say.
Everybody should understand that.
Yeah. They were no longer fitting me. And I just had them, in the closet. Like, why am I keeping these? And so I cut out all the usable denim for paper making, but you can't beat in the paper making beater. You can't beat the seams or the zipper, or it's too thick. It doesn't. You can't pulp that. You can't break it.
Okay.
So I had all of these like seams. I thought these are kind of funny objects. Like these are just silly. And I was going to an Ironport USM, and I didn't have any patterns. I was busy teaching, I was busy with life, and I just didn't have any time to produce any complicated patterns. So I was like, I'm just going to bring these. And I just like threw them in there, and they made these really gorgeous like objects of like scenes. And some of those castings are on my website, and actually a lot of them don't exist anymore because UPS sucks. And it was really just fun. It's my first like foray into like fiber, like fully fiber patterns, and they're really great fun. So doing something like that, directly pouring into paper in molds. Those are just some of the different experiments that I fiddled with. Some more successful than others. Some that were actually sculptured, some that are sadly lumps, which is a pet peeve of mine. I don't like making lumps. I feel like it's so time and material and fuel heavy of a process that yes, you want to be experimental, but I do try to avoid making stupid unsculpture things.
Wasting time, materials and time.
Yeah, it's literally,
and that's what you equate to the waste of that energy. And I think that's understandable. Nobody wants to.
And then I started doing rest prints and things like that. The other thing that I was doing in 2016 and 2018, I made large castings for the first time at trails.
Uh-huh.
And they were public pieces. They are public pieces.
Yes.
And involved other people and more casting processes, life casting. One of them is they're both wreaths, and I'm going to make another wreath this summer as well. And hopefully reach the 40 wreaths in my lifetime. But the large scale ones include like a life castings of a community mixed with another texture or form that'll represent that community. So for the first one, the Eudora Welty wreath, I went to the Eudora Welty Library in Jackson and cast over 100 handprints of all the patrons who came in to during 5 different workshops that I gave. And then I took those handprints and combined them with books, and that's what makes up the wreath. And then the second one, I cast feet, and I did this all at Trails. It was about Trails. It's called the Trails Wreath. And I cast all of the artists' feet and the interns' feet, and Jerry's foot is in there, my foot is in there. All the interns and artists who were there that Sunday are included in it. And then I had brought with me a wreath form. I laid them out, and it was kind of like a sewing bee or like a quilter circle with the interns. I have a nice stop motion video on my website. You can see it, where we fill in all the undercuts under the feet on the form. And then I put different forest detritus among it, because I'm really interested in like nature and industry and where these things bleed together, just similar like how work imprints on our own skin. Like, where do these things meet? Where are these like meeting points? And can I show that in these sculptures? I find nature, like natural objects, really beautiful.
Yeah.
And like in that wreath, you'll see like a little like plastic cup though in it, because that was just in the pine needles, the pine straw that I picked up. There's just a plastic cup, so that's included as well. And they're really fun pieces, so I'm excited to make another one. I've been showing them, people seem to love them. I like making them. The one that I started this year, I made friends with somebody who runs a day program for Alzheimer's patients. And I cast the elbows of different people who are involved in this. So they'll be combined into a wreath it'll have more negative space. I'm excited to play with the composition too. So in these series, it's fun for me to think about what are the different avenues that I can go down. So if I make more than one object, I have all these different opportunities within that kind of confine to experiment and push and like do something new. And then over the whole series, they start to tell that story of me learning that vocabulary.
I love everything about it. I'm excited to see it. I'm excited to see how it comes out.
Me too. I'm trying not to get freaked out about my pattern. It's going to happen though. I'm going to make the pattern. It's going to be great. I'm not going to show up without the pattern done, Jerry.
So where are you now?
So right now I'm in Eastport, Maine. It's a program run by the Tides Institute and Museum.
Okay.
Which is basically they document Eastport and they run an artist residency program. There's a whole museum building with archives and like objects from the town's history, which is it's an American place where the sardine industry really shaped it for many years. And then people don't eat sardines anymore. There's no more sardines. They get fished out. And there used to be something like over 60 canneries here. And now there's very few even like remnants of the buildings. And then, but there's it's just, there's only 1,300 people who live here, year round. And it's the most eastern part of the US. And when I look across the bay, I see Canada. So not only am I very far east, I'm also very far north. I'm looking at Canada right now.
That's wild.
All right. I'll look at America. No, I'll look at Canada. I'll look at America.
That's wild. To be like that when you've been landlocked for so long.
Yeah. It's great. So I love being here. It's on an island that's connected by a causeway.
Okay.
Called Moose Island. And so I live up a little hill. Right now I'm in the studio, and the studio that I was assigned has all this wonderful printmaking equipment. So there's multiple presses. There's a letterpress and a Vandercook. And so, loving process as I do, I've been using the type that they have an extensive catalog of type. And so I've been typesetting Edna St. Vincent Millay like sonnets and embossing them in denim paper. And then because I'm obsessed with iron too, I was interested in doing working with rust. And so in the seaside community, rust is everywhere. And one thing I've been interested in, just walking around and taking photographs, is just lichen that's very orangey and rusty, quite beautiful. And I'm like, not only is it occurring naturally, I'm also seeing these big chains that are old, rusty, just gorgeous, remnants of industry all around. And then the seaside, just that beautiful rust patina. I love the rust patina. Yeah. So I've been making images using rust and embossing and the letterpress. So yeah, that's what I'm doing.
Are the images three-dimensional images, textural paper and rust, or?
I mean, a lot of the things I'm making right now are pretty flat. That's one of my challenges with paper, is making it more three-dimensional. Here, a lot of the things I'm making are wall pieces, flat. I have a little, we'll see. I want to set 10 sonnets. I'm in the middle of my 5th. If I can set the rest of them, I might have space next week to work on something more sculptural, but I'm not tied to making it three-dimensional necessarily.
Yeah, no, I just was trying to figure out, in my head, kind of where.
In your head, in my head.
Yeah.
No. So with the typesetting,
sorry.
For example, with the embossing is just printing without ink. So with the typesetting, I have all these little letters.
So it is dimensional.
Yeah, it is. It is the printmaking specifically is more dimensional. The stuff I'm doing with bigger sheets is more flat. But with the sonnets, I'm printing them without ink in the handmade denim paper, and then I'm applying a rust product, an iron product. I should say, not a rust product, an iron product. This is me applying it. Yeah. I dry brush it over, right? So it's kind of like making a rubbing.
Okay.
Right. And then
is the paper still wet, moist at this point?
No.
Okay, so it's dried, and then you're dry brushing on
the rust material, and then I rust it.
Got it.
I put a photo up on Instagram of one of the poems. I'm not gonna.
No, that's it. I mean, I just was trying to, because a lot of people will be listening. I was just trying to I was drawing out.
For all the listeners out there, I've also been gathering wildflowers and maybe some other plants that aren't so wild, maybe cultivated in people's yard. Just seeing pulling a flower, and I've been embossing those as well. So with that, it's a different press, but embossing the flowers into denim paper, and then getting the rust material, the iron material, I'm doing the dry brush hand motion, just because if you emboss it, you can't totally see the image once it dries. Okay. So it's like making a rubbing of a gravestone. That's kind of the look, except in rust and iron.
What's different about this denim paper that's more successful than the other denim paper that you were talking about earlier?
Oh, I just refined my process. So I cooked the fibers with soda ash. And then, that was a big difference. Just cooking.
That was the answer.
And if I had 2 wits about me, I would have realized that before. Just be I can make it, no problem. It just took forever to beat. And I mean, I've done all sorts of different experiments. Paper making is also a really great place for experimentation. Across different things, all different fibers you can find. That look like they might be good paper. And I was just this can't be that hard. People do it.
Yeah. That's a good attitude to have about many things. Other people do this, I'll figure it out.
Yeah. And I did eventually. So, but the paper I'm making here is also pretty rough, in the sense I don't have a press to press out some of the water. So it's a little bit more rough on the surface, which is actually working out really well. with the rust because it does have more of like a textured surface. It looks pretty cool.
Yeah, I can see how that would lend a positive aspect to it. Yeah.
Yeah. Instead of it just being flat. So.
Yeah, because it'll pick up more of the texture. Duh. So you covered everything that I wanted to cover. And I just was wondering if you could talk about why do you continue iron casting or using iron?
One thing I didn't cover specifically that's really important to me is the working together aspect of iron.
Okay, let's talk about that a little bit.
You can't do it alone. No. I know what I know. I need to know more. Like, I don't know enough. You can't pour it alone. You need physically, it's just unhealthy. you need a group of people. And the beauty of casting iron is that it bonds you with people very immediately. And that adrenaline of being on the pour floor. My most of my experience is on the pour floor, not running the furnace. But like just being able to do all these different, contribute in all these different ways, like being a skimmer, it's really important, especially with the scratch box. And trust me, I know about grinding scratch box.
Yeah.
I know about that. Like it sucks. So if you can skim it and make it like perfect, just like while it's hot, oh my God, it makes a huge difference down the line. And then knowing that every little thing that you're doing is helping somebody else. Like you don't have to be, it's not this one heroic person doing these like masterful whatevers, like with these processes that are hidden and guarded. It's not like that at all. That's one thing I love about the community and about going to iron pours. If it's a good place and they're not assholes, people want to help you and you want to help them in turn. So I find that to be a little more unusual in terms of communities in the contemporary age. I love that. And then with my collaborator, Jenny, who I've mentioned a couple of times, we do a project called the Harder Barter Market.
Yes.
That started because of, if you experience one, you know what it's like. It's crazy. It's fun. It's wild. And it embraces the things that we love about the community. And while also we put on our performance personas and you enter in an arena, you're told these rules when you come in, right?
Yeah. Okay. So let's lay the foundation for, and I have to say, I have to come clean. I didn't
think you bartered.
I haven't actually taken, because I was setting up the exhibition.
I don't think I've seen you in the market.
No. So you come here often? No, didn't think so. But I do know about kind of the excitement that it creates in a community, because people would come into the exhibition space and be like, oh my God, this just happened. So for me, but for everybody who hasn't seen or experienced it, let's lay out the
Harder Barter Market is a pop-up event in which we have Jenny and I present this. It's a performance, but it's participatory. So there's an arena. It's surrounded by red tape that you enter. When you enter, you have to abide by a set of 5 rules. No currency, no re-entry. You can only barter inside the arena. And then IOUs are okay. And then a handshake seals the deal. Okay, so you enter in, it works out best if you have handmade objects to barter. And then when we first did it, it was 2 hours, and then we shortened it to 1 hour to make it a real frenzy. And people lay out their goods on the table, and it's like this whole gamut of salesmanship. Some people have come in and like laid out a blanket on the ground, like a street sailor. Some people have had like Paige Henry at that was Bones. Paige Henry at the International in Scranton had like a box that she had around her neck, like kind of like a hot dog salesman. And then I've seen all sorts of different shenanigans. It's been pretty fun. I'm not going to say that there aren't ways around these rules, but Jenny and I are the upholder of the rules, and we have megaphones, and we will incite bartering, we will model bartering, we barter, and then we enforce the rules, and we take care of rule breakers. And it's a anti-capitalist like feeding frenzy of fun.
Fantastic. And so you said you're going to have the next one
Mhm.
at the
In
international.
Berlin, in Deutschland. So we've done a lot of them at iron conferences because it's understandable. Iron artists like to produce small objects. It's really fun to trade. But we've also done it in other artist communities. And so in Berlin, it will be open to whoever's there. I think Jenny and I are going to try and invite as many people as possible to go to it. But I'm sure a lot of the participants will be conference. And it doesn't have to be iron. It can be a service, like a back rub. But you have to really be wise about what you're offering, because like certain people don't want to receive back rubs from certain other people.
Yeah. I feel like I remember hearing a story of a shirt off someone's back. Someone gave the shirt off their back as a payment for something they really wanted.
Yes. Alyssa Ines is one of our veteran barterers, and the first barter market, nobody knew what was happening. Nobody understood. And Jenny and I were like, is this going to work?
Yeah.
And fortunately, and it was during production force. So it was really timed horribly for a lot of people to show up. But a few people came, and maybe about 25 or 30 people came. And then the next time we did it at the next conference, it was just like massive. It was crazy. We were like, well,
I think we've got something here. Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is a hit. It's been really, really fun. It's been a great ride so far. So we're going to keep it going for the foreseeable future at different events. And if you want to invite us to come do it where you are, great.
Awesome.
So Berlin, yes, Berlin.
So you're in Maine now at this residency. What's hot on the horizon?
I have something else that's hot on the horizon that I haven't told you about.
Besides trails.
So I'm going to Berlin. Amazing. Yes. That's where the international conference is. Yes. It happens every 4 years. And Jenny and I are co-curating an exhibition called Eisen Wunderwelt. And that translates as Iron Wonderworld. And the exhibition features the work of 13 collaborative projects made by over 65 international artists working together, magic of coming together through art, through iron. And the theme of the show, besides that, is iron and cabinets of curiosity. So we've been working on it for the past year, and artists have been working really hard producing artwork just for this exhibition.
Yes.
All new work. All of the dates will be like 2022. And I can't wait to show everyone. It's going to be an awesome show. So I hope to see you in Berlin. If not, we'll be posting about it in the upcoming months and while we're there in September.
Fantastic. That, folks, is hot on the horizon, man. That's so exciting. Oh man.
It is.
So to kind of wrap up a little bit, what do you have any points of advice that you might have either for fellow casters or people that are interested in getting into iron casting, or maybe young people coming up in the iron casting community?
Yeah. My advice is to show up. Show the F up and work hard and ask questions. So just showing up is most of it. It was hard for me to like put myself forward, and I get that hesitation of like, I think it comes from a fear of rejection or fear of failure, but you can't fail if you don't do something, and you can't get anywhere in the iron world without showing up and contributing. So my biggest advice is to show up and ask questions, and don't be afraid to ask for help, because we're all there to help each other.
And I feel like majority of iron casters will tell you about an experience that they had with failure before they tell you about a success that they had. Yeah.
I think it's great to be around people who aren't afraid to say, like, I tried that one way and it did not work, but you go ahead.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll work for
you. and you kind of hope that it does, but then you also like, gosh, yeah.
Should have listened, or like, they warned me about this, Yeah.
So we're going to go over to the after show, which for all of you listening, the after show is going to be just 15 to 20 more minutes with Kristen, where I squeeze out one last story or memory or something. And so we've got some topics to choose from. And so I'm just going to list them off to you and see what happens. So where is your favorite place to pour iron, or what is your favorite iron pour memory, or a specific memory that you want to share that story with, or a specific event you had with a person, or what's the most scared you've ever been at an iron pour, or
I have a good one for that.
oh,
Yeah, for sure.
do
Yeah.
you, and it's not when the cheese almost fell on your mold?
It's not when the cheese almost fell on my mold. No, it's
Okay.
more imminent danger than that
Oh
to my own
wow.
body. Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay. I'm
Oh,
intrigued.
my other bit of advice would be to
Yes.
always wear real leather boots. Always wear your safety gear. Never skimp on safety gear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And sorry, I know I'm going back to the advice bit.
That's fine. No, do it. Do it.
As the teacher in me just is like, value your body and listen to your body. And no matter what part of the process it is, you can contribute. Even if you can't lift a ladle, or even if you can't do X, Y, or Z, you can contribute. You can be a part of our community. It is for you, and we can make accommodations or not. It's not even accommodations. We can just make sure that you can do what you want to do safely and successfully. But seriously, safety first. And I know there's vegans out there who don't wear leather, but it's the safety. Do not skimp on your footwear.
Yeah. And I'm sure that there's some foundry related resources that could give alternatives that would be, I'm kind of making this up now, but it's for each person with their comfort level with different materials of safety gear to do their own research, but there are resources out there. So that's good little tidbit to end with on the advice. Sorry. No, don't be sorry. I'm
just thinking about my mom. My brush with death always makes me think about safety and how important safety is.
And that's what we're about to go over and talk about now in the after show. Mm-hmm. So So before I sign off for the public podcast part of this episode, do you want to mention anything? Any shameless self-promotion and shameless self-plugs?
Shameless self-promotion. Follow me on Instagram at Kristen Tordella-Williams. Follow the Heart of Barter Market at Heart of Barter Market, and follow Mid-South Sculpture Alliance at Mid-South Sculpture. We have a show call up live right now. The deadline's July 15th. So it's open to anybody who's a Mid-South Sculpture Alliance member. You don't have to live in the South to be a member. You just have to pay the dues. So you can join from anywhere you are. And we do multiple shows, indoor and outdoor, every year. It's a great community to be a part of. Iron people are in it, and other, like, all different kinds of media. So come on down. We have our next meetup in Jackson on October 15th. So if you can't make it over to Berlin, I hope to see you in Jackson, Mississippi on October 15th. Our keynote is Anila Aga. She's amazing. Her work is stunning, and she's a wonderful person. So she'll be great to be around that day.
Fabulous. Are there going to be any resources for like people that can't get there in person, like Zooming?
It's going to be offered hybrid. Yeah, it will be offered hybrid. So if you can't get there in person, we'll be offering the talk and the panels and the presentations online.
Fabulous resources. Okay. Well, we're going to go over to the after show, folks. And so if you're a Patreon member, we'll see you right on over there. But otherwise, Kristen, thank you so much for being on the podcast Iron. And
yeah, thank you so much. This is really fun, and we learned things about each other we didn't know.
I know. What a wild trip.
I really appreciate I really appreciate all that you're doing for the community through this project.
Thank you. That means a lot coming from you. Thank you. Yeah. All right, folks, that's it for now. And we'll see you on the after show. Okay. Bye. Thank you so much for tuning in. I don't know if you could tell, but I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation with Kristen. Her journey into iron casting really highlights many of the different resources that are available to our community, from saw to sculpture trails and many others. Also, the use of iron as a material in her ongoing body of work exemplifies how versatile of an artistic medium it really is, physically and conceptually. Kristen, your energy and enthusiasm is contagious and beautiful. Thank you for the unexpected blast from the past, reminiscing about our alma mater. It really is a small world, especially if you're from Massachusetts, I guess. But also, thank you for all the work that you are doing as the president of the Mid-South Sculpture Alliance, as a passionate and engaging professor of art, as well as an active and prolific artist. As mentioned before, if you want to follow Kristen on Instagram, her handle is Kristen Tordella-Williams, and you can also visit her website, which is www.kristentordellawilliams.art. Also on Instagram, follow the Harder Barter Market, as well as the Mid-South Sculpture Alliance, and go to the Mid-South Sculpture Alliance website to find out more about the resources they have to offer. Kristen, thanks again for taking the time to let me interview you. It was a pleasure. And now for my shameless plug. If you like what I'm doing and you're interested in supporting the podcast Iron, go to our Patreon page, which is patreon.com/podcastiron. There, you can choose the contribution level that fits within your budget. Patreon supporters at any level get access to the after show of each episode. And this is just an extra 15 to 20 minutes with the show's guest, where we talk a little more candidly and share at least one more story. In this show's episode, Kristen recounts for us her brush with death on the iron pour floor. So for as low as $1 a month, you can support the show and get this extra content. And please believe me when I say that even $1 makes a difference. And thank you so much to those of you who have already gone over to Patreon and signed up to support the show financially. It's really helping to keep me going. If you don't have it in your budget to support the podcast Iron on Patreon, I totally understand. But instead, if you could share the podcast Iron with someone who you think will be interested in listening or watching, I'll appreciate that just as much. Anything and everything helps. And for that, I say thank you so much. If you want to get in touch with me, you can email me at thepodcastiron@gmail.com. Thanks again for listening and watching. I'm sending you all my love always, and I can't wait to share the next episode with you. I'll talk to you soon, and have a great day.